an open call to Donald Trump from the Jewish people. President Trump, against all odds, you did the impossible and won the race to the Oval Office. Congratulations. In a few days, you will be sworn as the 45th President of the United States. The American people voted for you because of your ability to defy the established norms that have been undermining the free world as we know it. I'm reaching out to you from Jerusalem, from the Western Wall behind me, asking you to correct an injustice that has been prolonging for too long, 68 years to be exact. President Trump, in your campaign, you vote to relocate the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I'm calling for you to deliver this promise and to finally recognize once and for all Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Israel and the Jewish people. It is time to move the American embassy to where it belongs, right here to Jerusalem. President Trump, there are very few American presidents that the Jewish people will remember until the end of time. One of them is Harry Truman. In May 1948, just before David Ben-Gurion declared the independence of the State of Israel, Truman called Ben-Gurion and tried to persuade him to postpone the declaration. 7 Arab states threatened the war, and that was the last thing President Truman needed on his plate, a third world war. But Ben-Gurion was resolved to continue.
על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
And President Truman was torn. His own administration was divided and opposed recognizing Israel's independence. Even Truman's Secretary of State, the legendary George Marshall, greatly opposed backing the creation of the State of Israel. At one point, Marshall threatened the president that he would vote against him in the next election if Truman actually recognized our independence. What Ben-Gurion exactly replied to Truman on this conversation will remain a mystery, but a hint of what he probably said can be found in a public statement Chaim Herzog, the first chief rabbi of Israel, told Truman a few weeks later. God puts you in your mother's womb so that the Jewish people can have a state. It took President Truman only 11 minutes. Each minute probably seemed to David Ben-Gurion like an eternity to come out with a public statement recognizing the independence of the states of Israel. The United States was the first nation to recognize the Jewish state, and ever since then the US has been our greatest friend and ally. President Truman was strong and courageous enough to resist the pressure from his own administration and to do what was right, what was morally right. Years later, Ben-Gurion met Truman. Here is Ben-Gurion's recount of that meeting.
At the end I said, I cannot tell you what will America say about you. I don't know America. But I can tell you what I know our people. You will be, for the entire Jewish people, living forever. So he began to cry. I was afraid. He went out. He went home. And I knew that in his corridor, all the journalists are there. I was afraid they would see he comes out from my hotel and he's crying. So I was waiting until he got away. And then they came in. They said, why did he cry?
But Truman's decision to recognize the State of Israel fell short of recognizing Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the Jewish people. Mr. Trump, after 68 years of prosperity, of a strong democracy and the rule of law, of protecting human rights and being pioneers in technology and medicine, we don't just deserve the right to have the world's nations recognize Jerusalem as our capital. We have earned this right, fair and square. In the last 2,000 years of oppressive history, Jerusalem has never been more free and more prospering as it is under Israeli law. President Trump, please do what is right, what is morally right. You don't even need to sign. You just need not to sign. The United States Congress already passed a law in 1995 declaring Jerusalem as our capital and required the embassy to relocate to Jerusalem by 1999. But presidents could waive this decision every 6 months, as did Clinton, Bush, and President Obama. Please, President Trump, don't be another Clinton, don't be another Bush, and definitely don't be another Obama. Be our Truman and allow the embassy to be moved to Jerusalem, where it belongs. Right here to Jerusalem, where it belongs. Thank you. Please give wisdom and courage to President Trump to move the embassy to Jerusalem. President Trump, in a few days it will be the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, and in Hanukkah miracles happen. Please make another miracle and finally move the embassy to Jerusalem. לא יודע, נכנסתי לזה, תוריד לי את זה למטה.